This video is brought to you by my generous backers over on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and get cool perks like access to the Discord, seeing the videos a week before anyone else, or exclusive Patreon only gameplays, then feel free to check out my Patreon. The link's in the description below. I remember Solo talking about this card in the Discord. You must join the Discord if you haven't already. This time up against Rasputin Dreamweaver. And hopefully it's not an incredibly powerful stacks flicker build again. Although that last Brago deck wasn't exactly a hyper powerful stacks build either. And I was so busy on commentary I didn't actually look at my hand properly. That's actually not a very good hand to keep, so that that hurts our chances of winning this even more. We'll just play out a land and pass. We're online for a turn 4 Omnath, which I'm sure will have my opponent quaking in his boots. Now then, let me remind myself of this. It doesn't buff itself, does it? No, but it can prevent damage being dealt to it, which is relevant against our commander. Let's go mountain. And the first spell of the game comes down. That is a Burnished Heart for our opponent. We get into some mana of our own, so we can go for the Kodama's Reach, and we'll grab some blue and red mana with that. Throw the island into play, and then we can maybe start with a Garruk next turn. Yeah, maybe we can go for Garruk and then start throwing out beast tokens. We don't have to minus him down straight away, necessarily. Our opponent may be holding up counter magic. They held up mana on their turn 2. Okay, there's a Gruul Signet. Let's just see if our opponent wants to go for counter magic. If they go for 2 mana counter magic, they can't crack their Burnished Heart at least. So let's see if they want to counter this. Okay, they did have 1 mana counter magic. This is obviously a more fine-tuned deck. This is the thing I'm worried about against patrons, is I'm sure a lot of the patrons are eager to see their decks played on the channel, and I'm sure that they've got way fewer decks than I do, which means that the few decks they do have are probably very finely tuned. So I'll have to discuss that with everyone in the Discord, and whether they're going to play finely tuned decks or if they're going to play some more fun / janky ones. I suppose that's a discussion we need to have before each game, because we do want the games to be quite fair ones. A Temple of the False God comes down, so they can hold up 2 mana and go in for their Rasputin Dreamweaver. Then removing some counters there. Okay, they go for a Plea for Power. Yeah, they just added a bunch of mana with that, so they've got 4 counters left on it. And it is time that they have voted for. We'll just have to go for Knowledge on that. Never give your opponent extra turns if you can help it. Then it's into a Mind Stone for our opponent. And they've still got 2 mana held up if they want to go for... Oh, they paid for that with the mana from Rasputin. So they've still got 2 mana held up for counters that I'm sure they have in hand. But they get an extra turn after this anyway, don't they? Oh, I thought they got 1 of each. We actually forced the draw there. Yeah, so they just drew 3 cards. I thought they'd draw 3 cards and get an extra turn, but no, apparently not. So let's go for... What do we go for? We can try a Beast Within. Let's go for the Gruul Signet first. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, let's try Beast Within on our opponent's upkeep. Because if they're going to counter, we want them to do it during their own turn. And then that will lessen the mana that they can actually recast Rasputin with. If it's untapped, put a Dream counter on it. Well, we'll nip that in the bud immediately. And we'll try a Beast Within. It will cost them 8 mana to get it out again. That'll be 2, 4, 6, 8 and 9 mana they've got. And they just allow it to pass, assuming that they don't have counters in hand. They're now at 10 mana. So they can get their commander straight out if they want to. Instead going for Lavina, Azorius Renegade. Each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with CMC greater than the number of lands that player controls. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. That shouldn't be too much of an issue for us. And then going in for their commander again. We drop another land. We're not getting into fetches, unfortunately, to make use of Titania and Crucible. Yeah, let's go for Waterlogged Grove here. And then tap that for mana. We can actually sacrifice this to draw a card. Put red mana into it, because I'm going to cast Titania. Alright, another land. At least we'll have Omnath online. Then Titania comes back out, and how many lands does that put us at? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. So if we're going for our commander next turn, we will draw a card on landfall after that. Although we might want to draw a card at the end of the turn with the Waterlogged Grove. Our opponent continuing to make lands, and now it's an Ifara. Let's see if they can get a creature into play. That is a Prophet of Distortion. And that's just 4 mana to draw a card. Ifara is animated now. And they are going to dump mana into that from the Rasputin to draw a card. Then removing another Dream counter, and this time going for a Transmute. They can get a 3 CMC card with that. It is Drift of Phantasms they have transmuted. And it is an Eldrazi Displacer, so they obviously want to flicker their own commander. They can go 1, 2, 3, and then I think, yeah, they've got the mana to flicker their commander there. So now they'll be able to put all the Dream counters back on it. And they're going to draw a card during our turn to Ifara. Comes back in tapped, but as you can see, it's got all those Dream counters back. And now they're adding 6 mana. Okay, so they're just generating infinite colourless mana here. So we'll have to see what they want to do with that. Oh, they can draw an infinite number of cards, can't they? So, how many colour-producing rocks do they have? Okay, well, if my opponent just needs to go infinite and draw their deck and get rocks out, I will have to just fast forward this content. I'll give them a few minutes, and if nothing actually occurs with the deck, then I will have to move on to the next game. But failing that, I'll have to ask Solo what the win condition actually is in the Discord, and well, obviously you can all ask him and talk to him about that as well if you want to. Alright, okay. I don't mind scooping here then, because it's just a typical Laboratory Maniac win. If it was going to be something unusual and something that you don't typically see, then I would have carried on through all this and fast forwarded through it and let you see it, but my opponent literally just filters mana, goes for Labman and draws into an empty library. They've still got 63 cards left in the library, and I've just been sat here for a few minutes watching them. We'll say good game to my opponent first of all. And yeah, turns out it's sometimes difficult to get interactive games against patrons as well. But it's a fair win nonetheless. So hopefully you all enjoy that, and a big thank you to your very generous patronage. I'm very grateful to you for that. Omnath Locus of Rage versus Rasputin Dreamweaver. And this is a patron of the channel. I don't know how you say it, but I'll just refer to him as Solo. And that is an awful hand, so let's get rid of that. That's not incredible either. Especially not against this deck. I know what a pain this deck is to play against. There's a little bit of a power level difference here, which is something that we need to iron out in the Discord, myself and the patrons. Let's keep it. We're just going to have to hope that we make good draws. We'll get rid of a Steam Vents, because we can pull that out with the Flooded Strand. And our opponent starts things off with Leyline of Anticipation. We will go for green and blue, I think. So we'll go Breeding Pool in tapped. Alright, and that's something for us to do on turn 2, so let's drop a Mountain. And we'll get an Elemental Lord out, assuming that it doesn't get countered. Our opponent does run Force Spike in this deck. Okay, and there's a Wayfarer's Bauble, a means of ramping our opponent, so even if we Wasteland them there, well, it'll still screw up their colours, I suppose. But we don't have a Wasteland anyway, so let's go for... yeah, we'll just get out a tap land with the Flooded Strand. We'll represent some kind of coloured mana. Swing in at our opponent for 2 and pass. And they go in for a land straight into the crack on the Wayfarer's Bauble. I suppose there's an argument to be made for me making a copy of the Metallic Mimic there so that we could try and rush our opponent with a bunch of plus counters. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I should have done that. Go for a Tropical Island as well, so we've got our green sorted out. Okay, Rite of Replication would be nice with... yeah, I might go for Scampering Scorcher onto that. I'm wishing that I'd use Quasi-Duplicant now. Oh well, not to worry. Because we could have gone in for a bunch of Elemental tokens with that. Elemental tokens with a bunch of plus counters on them. But we've got some powerful Elementals here anyway. That is 8 points of damage on our opponent. How much would it have been? We would have had a Metallic Mimic enter with a plus counter on it, I think, because it enters as an Elemental. So that would have been 5. And then these would have been 3 apiece. 3, 6, 9. That would have been 14 points of damage as opposed to 8. So our opponent's gone for time. We go for knowledge. So we force them to just draw 3 cards there. Certainly don't want our opponent taking an extra turn. Now, is it worth a Rite of Replication? That'll be even more Elementals. It'll be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And our opponent will need a board wipe. Yeah, definitely should have gone for that Quasi-Duplicate. Let's play the land just in case we see that Force Spike that I know my opponent has. Cast it on the Scampering Scorcher. And then all of our Elementals come in and they all have haste again. So we'll have to hope that there's no board wipe and that our opponent can't deal with all this stuff. They certainly can't get out enough blockers, I don't think. They go down to 6. Then that looks like Path to Exile. They lose another life. But deciding against it maybe. Okay, going for blue this time, and it's Mystical Tutor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana for the sorcery speed. Cyclonic Rift maybe? No, it's Day of Judgment. They just went straight up for a board wipe. And luckily for them, we don't have Spell Pierce. I don't know if they have another land to pay for Spell Pierce anyway. And they're going to be able to hold up blue mana for a counter spell. Going in for Gilded Lotus first. That's an intelligent play, so they can actually gain some more white mana and ramp at the same time. But they don't know that we don't have a Force Spike or a Spell Pierce, so it's a risky play. They do manage to wipe the board here, though. Okay, let's go for the Cloud Seer. So we'll need, we'll go like that. Cloudkin Seer. That'll draw us a card. And then we'll go for Quasi-Duplicate. Oh no, we can't. We don't have the mana. I just assumed that we had enough mana there. Well, we've got our opponent on a 2-turn clock anyway. And we'll be able to go in for Nissa. Yeah, we might be able to go wide on our opponent next turn. Or at least, no, we won't be able to go wide. We will be able to force them to block our land creature, though. They'll be able to prevent some damage with their Rasputin. Yeah, definitely should have gone for quasi-duplicate onto the Metallic Mimic. That's probably cost us this game. And there is our opponent's Rasputin. There is the land that we needed. What to do here? We could try Roil Elemental. Or we could try Omnath and put plus counters. Yeah, I think that's the thing to do. Let's try and put plus counters on our Cloudkin Seer. Just keep our fingers crossed that there's no counter magic. Okay, the Omnath enters. I don't think it matters if they remove a counter from that, so we'll just ping our opponent just in case it matters. I think this close to victory. And there's a path on the Cloudkin Seer. That's unfortunate. So there goes our plan. Definitely go for a land though. Go for blue mana. And that's a plus counter on Omnath. I'll play this land and then I'm not going to crack it until we've got Roil Elemental in next turn. Our opponent is going to be able to remove 5 counters from this, I assume, when we swing in with Omnath, and that will remove the damage from that. They can remove a dream counter to prevent the next 1 damage that will be dealt to it this turn, and I think they can stack that 5 times. Or maybe not. Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, to be honest. All the damage is dealt at once, so how do you decide which point of damage you're referring to? Okay, that is Phyrexian Metamorph. Gilded Lotus, maybe? Yeah, they go for more mana with Gilded Lotus. Now, can we gain control of our opponent's commander with a Roil Elemental? Prevent damage, add mana, and yeah, that's all you can do with it. So we'll save the fetch for when Roil Elemental comes out. We've got a forest anyway. Yeah, let's go straight in for that. Okay, that enters, so let's try and take our opponent's commander away. We'll put a plus counter on the Roil Elemental. And they do want to flicker the Rasputin to keep dream counters on it, so they might have flicker in their hand. And there we are, Essence Flux. Exile a creature you control, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Well, we've got that Misty Rainforest, luckily. When's it returned? At the end step? Oh, they sent it back to the command zone. They forgot to change the zones on that. Yeah, I'd feel... Unless they did that on purpose, so that we couldn't take control of it. Yeah, maybe that was something they did on purpose there. Okay, now they've got Labman. This is gain control of a target... Yeah, it's creature. We can't take their rocks. So we swing him. Then we crack the Misty Rainforest. And try and steal away our opponent's Laboratory Maniac. Let's just, doesn't matter what we go for there. Try and take that out of the way. We'll put a plus counter on our Roil Elemental. Draw into a Smoke Braider. Definitely take that away from our opponent. That is their win condition, by the way. Managed to take our opponent down. Excellent. So, definitely nearly threw the game away by not going for the quasi-duplicate onto the Metallic Mimic, but in my defence, didn't know that we were going to get into another copy effect for the Scampering Scorcher. So that's not a play that we can usually make, but yeah, we've uploaded the first game, so we are seeing the best of 3 here apparently, and that'll make it a better video for all of you. Are we going to make use of that Vandal Blast? I think we might, but no, I really want ramp. Could have made use of Song of the Dryads actually, oh well, thrown it away now. Probably should have kept that. There was no guarantee we were going to get into a land is the only problem. Or land the Song of the Dryads on to Rasputin. Oh, and our opponent's telling us in the last game they did forget to change zones, so they would have had enough blockers there had they not have made that mistake. But that's 2 mistakes between both of us, like I said, because we didn't go for that token when we had the chance. Let's get rid of just a fetch, I think. Yeah, it doesn't matter, does it? Let's just get rid of a blue fetch. And our opponent is on the play this time. Alright, just getting to another land. Let's try and strip our library of lands as best we can. Only makes a tiny, little insignificant difference, but at least we know we're not going to draw into steam vents now when we don't want to. The last thing we want to do is give our opponent time with this deck. Probably should have kept that open in hand. And now they've got counter magic held up. So we'll go for another fetch and pass. And now a third land, so our opponent will be able to buy themselves some time and get into their white mana eventually, assuming that they've got a grip full of counters. But can we do anything about what they've got going on here? Let's go for another green source into the lantern. And that came down fairly quickly, so I don't know if my opponent actually has counters available to them. Okay, there is a mystical tutor, that's always worrying. Okay, it's a bribery from our opponent, and unless they've got 2 mana to throw down, they're a couple of lands away, now only 1 land away from bribery. Still don't have any white mana. Luckily for them, strip mine isn't legal in this format. And speaking of dropping 2 mana, there's Ancient Tomb. I think we just have to go for Soul of the Harvest. We need to get the counter magic out of their hand anyway. Allowing the Soul of the Harvest into play, and instead going for Fact or Fiction. I don't know if they were bluffing on the counter magic there, they might have been. Or they might have been going for Fact or Fiction in response to that and then instead deciding to wait for our turn. You can have Kozilek and Plea for Power. Yeah, I think they're going to take this pile because it fixes their mana, so if they want to take that bottom one, that's fine. They might draw into the plains off of the Plea for Power. Okay, they decide to take this pile, which is surprising. They might not have had a land in their hand, so this guarantees them a bribery. That is the land that we gave them. Not going in for bribery, surprisingly, going in for a Thran Dynamo. Oh, and then it'll be that, yeah, now it's the Plea for Power. They always go for time on this. We will make them draw 3. They're up to 7 now, and there's our ramp. We are nowhere near our 8 lands for Omnath. So let's tap this for 2. We might need the mana. It depends what we draw into off of the Soul of the Harvest. Don't have to worry about which lands we tap with Chromatic Lantern in play. So we draw a card on Omnath entering. Ping our opponent. That is a shock to them, because we have 2 elementals in play, and we will always yes and yield and hope that our opponent doesn't play a Consecrated Sphinx. Just more lands for us. We have no difficulty drawing into lands in this deck for some reason. So let's just try and pile a bunch of plus counters onto this and try and shove as much damage through as we can. Get down our final shock. Then we'll go for the 3 visits for another land, and that's just to get another plus counter onto the Soul of the Harvest. Highly doubt we're going to win this one. What is that? That's 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 mana will get them into Kozilek. They do have that bribery still, so they might be able to play a troublesome creature with that. We've got plenty of creatures in the deck. Avenger of Zendikar would probably do them some good. Still not into white mana. And then it is a rapid hybridization onto our Soul of the Harvest. I think we're going to have to go for Waterlogged Grove. If our luck doesn't change, there is the bribery. We'll see what they go for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, I think it's Waterlogged Grove. I'm not going to rely on Omnath's draw ability. We haven't done too well this game, considering the amount of time our opponents lended us. But this is one of those decks that I haven't exactly optimised, much like the Broodaclad deck, so I don't feel too badly about potentially losing against what I'm assuming is an optimised deck in my opponent's Rasputin list. They go for Omnath, Locus of Rage. So we need to... Well, we definitely need to go for Waterlogged Grove. We'll try and make our Omnath bigger than the other Omnath. Get that out of play as quickly as we can. Sacrifice the Waterlogged Grove and draw a card. And of course, just draw into another land. Yeah, it's just one of those games. So I'm perfectly happy for my opponent to block this Frog Lizard, and that will draw us a couple of cards. I imagine they just take it. They're on 6, 7, 8, 9. Probably on Kozilek next turn. Oh, they are going to block that. Okay. So we'll draw a couple of cards. Okay, and into Garruk Primal Hunter, which we can cast, luckily. And thankfully, we've got the mana for it, because that is green intensive, thanks to the Chromatic Lantern. But they've got counters anyway. So it is a mana leak. We cannot pay that. And it looks like it's our opponent's game to win now. They make a land and an elemental. Still not in white mana. They've done pretty damn well considering that they don't have all their colours. Unfortunately for us, pretty much all we've gotten into is our colours. That gives them enough mana for the Kozilek, which they have decided not to play seemingly. Okay, transmuting. And Burnished Heart will get them into their white mana. They might have decided against the Kozilek because they're worried about Roil Elemental. That is what we played against them last time. Then swinging in with Omnath. We will just take it. I suppose we could have blocked there and gone for a draw with Elemental Bond. More ramp, more mana. I'm going to have to really go through this deck and see if we can actually do something other than get into mana and ramp. We'll play out the Elemental Bond. And I could block with the Omnath. Oh, and our opponent's going for the Burnished Heart now. Okay, I thought they would have blocked with that. Anyway, yeah, I could go for Skull Clamp onto Omnath and actually kill it when it dies. Alright, making more elementals. Yeah, do we want to swing him with... Well, our opponent takes us out anyway, don't they? Yeah, so we'll just go for Farseek. I doubt we're going to get into anything that will help us win this one. Farseek makes it so Omnath can block at least. And we just draw into another land, yeah, completely flooded. I don't feel bad about losing this one at all. Skull Clamp, yeah, just for the fun of it. We're not going to draw into anything. So just for the fun of it, I will block with Omnath and we'll actually send it to the graveyard. Because I imagine our opponent's going to try and go wide on us. Okay, and there is a path to exile, so our opponent goes straight through, thanks to having some removal for us. We'll just grab a mountain, and all they have to do is turn everything sideways. We will say good game to them, and that is your best of 3. They managed to best us there. That was ours to win, but obviously we got flooded. And yeah, don't really feel too bad about losing that one because we couldn't draw into anything but lands. Yeah, Zendikar's Roil more. Yeah, just more ramp on top and lands. So maybe have to go through this deck and balance it more, but it's not exactly the deck that I pull out to stomp all over my opponent anyway. So yeah, so I would have to play against this deck a few more times. I'm just assuming that it's a finely tuned deck, but yeah, I don't know if it is or not. Our opponent did struggle on mana there, so I don't know how finely tuned it is. But it's a very good one nonetheless. And yeah, I think that was an interesting game. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.